If it's an individual, attractive, sort of alluring deal presented to you, remember the same rule of thumb: if it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Hello there, my name is Edson Tandok Jr. We hear the term fake news all the time in our everyday conversations. We see the term when we're on social media. But what really is fake news, and what are the important consequences of this issue? In this podcast, my friends and I are going to explore what fake news is, the consequences, and what we can do as a community. So joining me are Dr. Sansan Lim and Dr. Gulizar.
Hi, I'm Sansan Lim. I am a professor at Singapore Management University. I've been researching families and young people's technology use for over 20 years. I'm very curious about their encounters with media and technology, and particularly the kinds of digital literacy challenges that they may face.
Hello, I'm Gulizar Hajiakpolo. I'm a Senior Associate Fellow at the Center of Excellence for National Security at the S. Ratnam School of International Studies at Nanyang Technological University, a mouthful like my surname. I work on issues around influence operations, including disinformation campaigns and online harms.
Okay, let's have a real talk about fake news. So what do we mean by fake news?
I think when you think about our day-to-day lives, it's now so hyper-connected. So we are constantly ingesting and consuming news. But amidst the genuine, accurate news, there's also news that sometimes looks very realistic, but actually could be false. And that's because when we think about fake news, it very often is produced to blend real news together with various kinds of falsehoods so as to mislead or confuse people.
Why do people share fake news? Right? On platforms, it's easier now. It's easy to just click share, or do we still say retweet? I haven't been using X for a while, but I think they've made it easy for users to exchange content on social media. But why do some people share fake news?
So in the best of cases, I think people share fake news thinking that it's real news and they want their friends and family to know about it. But there are also people who share fake news because of mischief. They think it will be funny. But I think very often when we see something that is emotionally very triggering, we feel like we must share it somehow. When we look back to the COVID period, many of us would have encountered falsehoods. There were falsehoods about the dangers of vaccines, asking people to, use certain kinds of folk remedies to ward off COVID. There were also falsehoods about lockdown, and obviously this misled a lot of people. But I think when it comes to falsehoods today, it's very important for consumers to actually understand the algorithms behind why certain falsehoods become so visible. And again, that's because the platforms will always amplify stuff that is generating a lot of eyeballs, attracting a lot of attention. And that's where, as consumers, we need to be aware that there are these algorithms out there that are promoting such content, and to safeguard against just clicking on everything that seems to be very attractive.
I think I like what you mentioned about how some people who share fake news, they do it out of good intentions, but then the content is actually not true. But like what you mentioned, there's also some who would share something that they know is fake. So studies we've done at InCube, we surveyed about 1,000 people. If I remember it right, it's about 15% who said they share something that they know is fake. And for me, that is very intriguing. Like, why would people share something that they know is fake? And like what you mentioned, especially for young people, if it's funny, if it's outrageous, the humor overrides the informational value of these posts. I think I agree we need to be a bit more mindful of these things, and also be mindful that those who create fake news also have certain agenda.
It's probably timely to make the separation between misinformation and disinformation in that sense, because misinformation is those that are consumed and circulated without the intention to harm, like often unknowingly, whereas disinformation is deliberately circulated with the intention to harm. Although definitions in this space are always challenged. Yes. But when it comes to misinformation, it could genuinely be shared by not knowing, or sometimes people may know and share, like you've already stated. But then at the same time, like you mentioned, motivations behind the false information out there could be different when it comes to malicious actors. Some of the narratives could target societal fault lines, seeking to create divisions in the society. And Singapore is also not free of fault lines. Institute of Policy Studies does these researches to understand fault lines in Singapore, and those that they identified in their studies are immigration, socioeconomic status, race, religion, and LGBT. Perhaps we can call it LGBTIQ+. So discussions around these topics could be an entryway for a malicious actor to target the society and create divisions.
These individual pieces of fake news that we see on social media, they might seem not connected, but there's also a thing called influence operations, right? What do we mean by influence operations?
As other terms in the field, there are different approaches to this term. But as some of these things unfold, or many of these things unfold in platforms, it might be worth looking at Meta's definition of it. They define it as coordinated activities to manipulate public debates towards a strategic goal. A central term here is influence, but influence all by itself is not necessarily a bad thing or unacceptable in all situations. So, for instance, K-pop is very influential around the world for, and it disseminates Korean
K-pop
rich
groups,
Korean.
I follow K-pop groups on Facebook.
They're good.
Yes.
And it does, influence people, spread rich Korean culture. Movies as well, they're very influential, or even diplomatic engagements and trade, they've been going on for years. They have influence over countries, but they're widely accepted most of the times. But then there are also activities that go into the spectrum of interference, which are mostly not accepted by various countries. One of the well-known cases that have been studied by different organizations is called doppelganger. So what they did was multifold. So they mimicked news media organization sites like The Guardian. They built websites propagating pro-Russian, anti-Ukrainian content. Also, they attempted to boost doppelganger content in social media platforms through fake accounts. It could come in various shapes, like they could use these accounts to reply to tweets or comment under all those discussions that are unfolding on their contents, or through buying ads to widen their reach. This is just one example. There are multiple coordinated campaigns that have not only one leg, but multiple legs operating concurrently. Disinformation could be a part of it. And like we defined earlier, it doesn't necessarily have to be fully false information, but it's even more believable if it blends some truth and false or decontextualizes the information.
I think another telltale sign that it could be an influence operation is to look at the comments on some of these posts on social media.
Yeah.
And you can see that in certain comments that there is a very deliberate attempt to polarize the discussion, to actually swing people even further in one position, either for or against the influence operation. And those are also the comments that seem to get a lot of likes, and again seem to have been deliberately driven up by certain bots or certain operation campaigns where they have perhaps teams of people upvoting or commenting on some of these positions.
Yeah, this has become a booming industry, right? Manufacturing engagement, relying on trolls or creating bots to amplify certain comments, creating fake comments, creating fake number of likes just to shore up, certain narratives. And if you're not if you're not careful, you might think that, oh, this post is very popular. It must be, they're probably making really good arguments. But if you scrutinize it, some of these accounts, either they don't have photos, there was a time when, like on Twitter, the old Twitter, usually bots would have like no photos. It's just like an egg. So we would call it like, these are like egg accounts. But now you also see on Facebook accounts that would have profile photos, but they look like they're AI generated. You can tell.
Yeah.
And then if you spend the time, that's the thing, who has time, right? But if you spend the time to compare these different accounts, the photos look the same, like different faces, different features, but they're wearing similar suits, and the background, the composition of the photo is the same. It's not possible that they all went to the same photo studio, right? So you can detect that some of these are AI generated and must be bots operating.
Or handles, account histories as well, like when was the account created? Was it spreading content in different languages before? Did it have a break? Was it a dormant account for a while? Actually, there are so many resources out there that give information consumers tools to identify, especially bot accounts, because it's slightly easier when it's automated. Might get a bit more tricky in the upcoming years with all these developments in GenAI and how the content is. I mean, back in the days, translating content to different languages was much harder. Now it's much easier, for instance, and it can be made to look more genuine.
But yeah, now that you've mentioned generative AI, it's as if we don't have enough problems yet. Now we have generative AI. How is this affecting fake news?
Some technology commentators have actually referred to generative AI as the fire hose of misinformation, because it's so easy to automate the production of very high fidelity, very convincing falsehoods. And when we think about some of the earlier images that were pushed out, like the one of Donald Trump being arrested, there were some telltale signs that it was a false image, because the fingers on his hand were a bit misshapen. But in the short time that GenAI has exploded, the images have become so much more realistic, so much more accurate. Now the videos that are being produced by the likes of VO, for example, are so compelling that you really can be fooled into thinking that it's real. The other scary thing is also the technology advancement in terms of innovations like voice cloning. So what makes a video of, let's say, Prime Minister Lawrence Wong urging you to buy a particular stock even more convincing is the fact that they are able to clone his voice and make him say things that he would never say. And that's also being used to trick individuals, right? Where they may clone the voice of your loved one, and then your loved one seems to be calling you through for some kind of crisis where you have to respond quickly. So this is actually a real challenge for everyday consumers, because there is so few sort of guidelines or even heuristics that we can rely on to tell if something is false. In the past, it used to be, if you receive an email that's a falsehood, probably there's a typo, there's a grammatical error. But again, with tools like ChatGPT, very beautiful writing can be produced very quickly in a very trivial fashion.
But with that said, AI is also now being harnessed to do fact checking, but I always feel like it's always like we play catch up, So those who create fake news, they also have their own technological advancements, and we always have to play catch up and then leverage technology as well to detect or debunk. And the thing is, I'm not aware of any tools that are 100% effective in detecting whether something is AI generated or not. I mean, like from my students' assignments, for example, I get some numbers, but they're also not 100% reliable to say if something is completely AI generated, right?
Right. So I think some of the old rules of thumb still apply, that if you receive a piece of news that is maybe surprising, that you should still check against various sources, especially, for example, established mainstream media, to see if it's true. And then, of course, with regard to video content now, one of the telltale signs apparently is that the length of the video could be a giveaway, that if the video is especially actually short, that then the likelihood that it is AI generated, because there's a limit to how long these videos can be at the moment. But again, these are all the telltale signs that as the technology improves, again, will no longer be that useful.
Yeah.
But for now, I think for individuals, just check against multiple sources. And if it's an individual, attractive, sort of alluring deal presented to you, remember the same rule of thumb: if it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
You can also do your homework. And we kind of have to still do our homework because AI can still hallucinate.
AI cannot go out and interview people. AI cannot go out and observe, what's happening in the field. Fake news can be more engaging, right? All you need is I would say, a creative mind, or now you can use GenAI, to just like write something from thin air.